I never win.
That's not true. It's probably about 50-50.
It's less. Welcome to Books We Never Read.
Except for those we have.
I'm Jason,
I'm Nicole.
and today is our last video on The Secret Life of Bees by Sue Monk Kidd.
We didn't plug in the microphone. Just talk loud.
Is it too late to do it?
It is. It'll disconnect our live.
No.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, sorry. Dang it.
Uh,
We're not good at this.
I mean, we're okay at it.
I mean, whatever.
So, yeah. Sue Monk Kidd.
What's the other stuff? We have other things we have to say at the beginning of this.
I was going to let you do it since you won the...
I don't know it.
All right. So, anyways, we're super excited that you're here to talk about the book with us, but we want to make sure we don't ruin anything for you. So, if you have not read up to this point, which is the whole book, back on out of here, finish reading, and then come and join us when you're done. We have the other 2 previous weeks playlisted for you. We have tons of other books playlisted for you as well if you'd like to read something else with us. We hope that when you do join us live, you chat us up in the chat. And when you catch us on a replay, you chat us up in the comments section. And if you don't want to see us, but you do want to hear us, we are available on YouTube Music as a podcast. We're also on Instagram, booksweneverread.yt.
I need to post some funnies on Instagram. I've abandoned it this week.
We're busy.
We are busy. That's okay.
So, what'd you think about the book?
It was really good. I'm glad that the hat picked it, and it definitely. I feel. I mean, this is. I think I still like Heaven and Earth Grocery Store, maybe better. It was just a little more complicated, and there was kind of like a whodunit element to it. But this is really close, because it's a similar genre about similar themes. I mean, like they're both just so fantastic and dealing with the same subject matter in 2 different parts of the country. With a little bit of difference, but very similar, right? About just coming together and community and things like that. And I mean, this book was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. I love the way it ended. So.
Shelby said she couldn't put it down after chapter 10, committed to crying on an airplane until it was done. And Peggy had all the feels, really liked it, and hated it because of the feels. Yeah. Also liked Heaven and Earth Grocery Store better, though.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I've said this several times before. I really hate when, like, everything always works out in the end of books. Like, it just bugs me to death. And I'm the guy that wants the hero to die. And what's kind of interesting is, like, I think that we get this in this book. The hero is dead because there are really no heroes. But, like, your villain kind of dies. Like, you have this. I'm not saying T-Ray is like a good person by any means, but he becomes humanized. Like, there's this moment of understanding by Lily about her father, about, like, the trauma he's been through and how he got here. And it doesn't make the things he's done okay, but it makes them understandable. And he's not just, like, senselessly hating, and so like there's this closure there, but also, like, her mother. So her villain is a villain, but he's human. And then her mother isn't a hero anymore. She's also human because, like, she did abandon her and she was dealing with her own traumas and things like that. And so, like, I love the growth that Lily's made while also having, like, sort of, like, it wasn't perfect. And there wasn't it didn't all end out okay. Like, it didn't. She's okay and she's gonna be okay. But it didn't all work out,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Shelby had a moment of empathy for T-Ray and what his trauma turned him into. I mean, that was scary when he started beating her up.
Yeah.
That was very scary.
The scene with T-Ray in the house and all that. One interesting thing about it, I think, is that he didn't, like, go full-blown racist on anybody. Like, he didn't. To the best of my recollection, he did not mention race once, except for, I think, like, when he first opened the door, he's like, "Why are you staying here with these colored women?" or something. Like, he says that. But whenever they're, like, getting down into it about whether or not she's gonna leave or stay or what's going on, like, he kind of leaves that alone because that's not, like, his issue, right? he has other issues.
Mhm.
And then the other thing I got to thinking about was like, when he's carving on the chair, I think that was like a really interesting. Um, I think it was like an interesting thing to add for him to do while struggling, because I saw it almost as like a form of self mutilation. He
Mhm.
wasn't carving on himself because like he's a grown man, and I don't think he would do that in front of like a child. But carving on the arm of a chair is like carving on his own arm, I think. And so there was a sort of like self hatred there, and like a desire to destroy himself almost, I think.
That's rude. You're at someone else's
Look,
house and
I'm
you're
on board.
carving
I'm on
on their
board.
chair. That's weird.
I'm on board. It's weird, but
And showing that he doesn't like respect them as people. Like that
yeah,
these are their things.
I think that too. But like he had to get this pain out,
Yeah.
and that was the way he did it.
And seeing how he acted, how that that part of his mind switched, and
Mm-hmm.
he thought that that was Deborah, and his response to that was beating her. Thank goodness Lily got out when she did.
Yeah, sure, yes, absolutely, and that she was able to stay.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if all the sisters could tell that Lily was Deborah's child, like when she showed up, I mean, I get that it must be hard to see that every day. I mean, like, and we have plenty of stories about that sort of like idea. There's nothing original there, but you know, I don't know, I get that it was hard. He did not handle it appropriately.
Mm-mm.
I'm not sure what he could have done to handle it appropriately in like this day and age. Like there wasn't like somebody he could really go talk to, and unfortunately there wasn't like the care available
Mm-hmm.
once you started down that road. Not the professional kind of care, really.
Yeah.
Peggy was saying she also had to consider that he'd been in war, and that's true, right? Like they mentioned that one of the things Deborah liked about
Mm-hmm.
T. Ray was that he was decorated, and like that's awesome. But you don't get decorated because like you
'Cause it
had
was
a
easy.
good time, right?
Because you were just over there playing and
Right.
building and
No, he's seen some stuff,
making
and
world peace.
yeah, and so he's already got some trauma in there, most likely by the time Deborah shows up.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. I loved at the end, after she asked T Ray what really happened when her mother died, she turns around and she just sees all these mothers.
Mm-hmm.
It reminded me of Salvage the Bones at the end,
Mm-hmm.
when she realizes it doesn't matter about the real father. It
Mm-hmm.
matters that she has these amazing men in her life and her child's life,
Right.
to build that supportive family. It doesn't have to be your blood family. It can
Right.
be anyone.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was like a perfect ending.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a beautiful reminder with just all things spiritual or anything that you feel gives you strength, your Dumbo's feather, whatever it is, you can have that power locked up inside of an item, but it's so much more powerful when you realize it's you the whole time.
Right.
That is within you, and it's people that makes a difference. You don't sit and wait for a miracle. You might pray for one, but you become that miracle. You make the things happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a powerful message. And it's something that especially, these women had to do. They live in this community and they've built relationships with the people in this community regardless of their color.
Right.
And it's not because they sat around and just waited for a miracle and prayed for people to be nice. They made themselves
Right.
an important part of the community.
Yeah.
And so they had the attorney who was looking out for Zach.
Yeah.
And then even though I thought he was going to be a creeper, he was also looking out for
that
Lily.
never went anywhere.
I'm so glad.
Yeah.
God, I was really nervous about that. I think that it shows how powerful people can be in both ways.
Yeah.
You can use your power for good or for evil, for love or for hatred, and we see how powerful that is, using it for love.
Yeah. It was I have a lot of things to say now, I think. I really enjoyed August's sort of insight into Mary and what Mary meant, and the whole like Mary's really inside you. It has nothing, like, who cares about this piece of wood,
Mhm.
right? Like it doesn't matter.
It'd be this or any other thing.
Yeah, it could be anything. It
Yeah.
could be literally anything. But they still have this piece of wood, and they still like rub the honey into it, and still touch it and pray before it, and all this sort of stuff. And I'm really in this, I like this idea that we need to make things that are mental physical. And so I like ritual and I like pieces of wood that people pray to and things like that because it makes it Atlas no
No
man.
favor.
It makes it real. Like it makes it
David.
tangible, I guess.
David.
But I think a lot of people get hung up on like the piece of wood mattering. And for August to be able to have this insight and to share that insight, like we do this because there's something about like our little brains that need that to be out here in the world. But like you're good, right? And like the example I always give is graduation, right? Nothing happens.
Yeah.
You've already done the thing.
Yep.
But walking down that aisle makes it tangible and makes it real in a way that it can't be otherwise.
Yeah.
Or birthdays, right? Birthdays are a good example. So I think there's that. The second thing I was gonna say was, man, it's gone now. But something about families and like I think it's the family you choose and all that. You were talking about that earlier. And we arbitrarily choose who we hate, right? Like, and everybody's picking skin color as the option here. But you can arbitrarily make a family as well. Just they had no reason really to be kind to Lily. Like, yeah, they knew Deborah, but like, so what? Like, so what? But to take them in and to do all that, especially when they knew Lily was a liar, right? So, the point is like, you could just be kind, like you can. It's just literally that easy, and it's more complicated than that. It's simple but hard, right? And if more people would just do that sort of thing.
Yep. I love love.
I just like August especially is such like a just emotionally mature person.
Yes.
Like whenever Lily found out everything and needed like to chuck bottles of honey at the wall and like go hang out in the woods for a couple days and they just like let her do it. That's awesome, like you can't let her waller there forever.
Yeah, but you gotta let her get it out.
Yeah.
I hated that she smashed those bottles of honey. Just knowing how much work goes into making such a small amount. Oh,
yeah,
it's terrible. And I was like worried they were gonna fuss at her and I don't know, make her feel bad about it. But not. She just cleaned it up and moved on.
Yeah. The chat's kind of talking about like what families look like and that concept of it takes a village and all that. And I do think that's one of the things that we're missing is there's a lot of evidence that like the wealthier a society becomes, the more insulated it is. Like you could not go to the grocery store and see other human beings because they'll just deliver your food to you, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you are getting out and socializing with strangers otherwise and making communities otherwise, but like so many people don't know their neighbors or can help their neighbors and and I think that's a problem or so many people think of like, well, I'm good, I have my little family, and then everybody else is sort of a means to like a commercial end. We think of everything as transactional. And I won't get into it here, but like I'm very opposed to that idea, and I like the idea of like people owing each other and being enmeshed and having to work together. And I think that's what a lot of this is. They don't see Lily as just like a way to make money. What?
Debt. That's your favorite book.
It's a large book. It's not my favorite book. It's close. it's an important concept. Well done. Gold star.
I got 2 gold stars
You did get 2
today.
gold stars. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't read the author's notes yet, Shelby. I'll have to go back and read it. Yeah.
Oh wow. We hadn't watched the movie yet. Now that I know how the book ends, like I could probably watch a movie.
Yeah.
I can make it.
I could totally watch the movie.
Yeah, we do gotta talk about May.
I mean, that's an all-star cast.
Yeah.
Right there. We have to talk about May, Peggy. What do you want to talk about May? I love that Lily kept the wall going. I think that wall is so important. I think, especially during this time period, there's just so many things to feel about. Well, even now, we need a healthy way to process the tragedies and the traumas and the terrible things that we
Yeah.
see, and a way to memorialize and a way to help heal.
Yeah.
And I think this concept of her wailing wall is really cool. And I also, so I kind of think of May as, like she didn't grow up emotionally past when her sister died. That's kind of
Right.
how I see her. And I remember as a young child when I started hearing about just things going on in the world, or even like reading things in books or watching movies or whatever, the sadness of the world really weighed on me. And I would just cry and cry and cry, just feeling empathy for these other things. And seeing May and her wall, to me, that's just perfect.
Yeah.
It's a perfect way to try to bundle up these feelings and put them in a place where they don't have to live inside of you and weigh you down all the time.
Yeah. I mean, part of it I think is talking about like the traumas then and the traumas now and all that, and like if May had been born 200 years earlier, let's say, she'd have a whole host of extra traumas,
a whole other situation,
but like, a whole different situation. But she's living in a time where like she never could have put something about like the kids in Birmingham into her wall because she wouldn't have known about it,
right?
And so, but my point in saying that is like think about how much more we know now about the world, and even though we have all this information that we can use for good, if we're not careful, we can like legitimately traumatize ourselves because we can be and often are aware of every terrible thing that happens, and then we can't do anything about it.
We are over-informed about the tragedies
like,
of the world.
That's not necessarily a bad thing, but like it is also potentially a bad thing.
If all you do is immerse yourself in the tragedies that you're capable of knowing about.
Yeah. Get offline. Get offline for a while.
That's that is a heavy burden that you've placed upon yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To just be
Yeah.
And I think about what would May be like today, and I'm not sure. Even though the world would hopefully be a kinder place to her, the world is not a kind place, and I worry that she would be too aware, and we'd wind up in a similar situation.
Yeah.
What'd you highlight?
Oh, I highlight all kinds of stuff. Again, August's emotional maturity and trying to help Lily learn how to process these things that she's learning about her mother. Your mother made a terrible mistake, but she tried to fix it, and we do screw up all the time. And unfortunately, we can't fix the things that we do. And how far does trying go?
Yeah.
But that was one of the things I had highlighted. What did you have highlighted?
I think I only made one highlight.
Oh my god.
Yeah, bad.
There's nothing perfect. That's what August says. I love that June got married.
Yeah, that was cool. Let's see. Oh, we've already talked about my note. That the lady's not some magical being out there. She's like a fairy godmother. She's not the statue in the parlor. She's something inside of you. That was sort of like the most important concept for me.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just like going through my notes.
Sure.
Oh, and I do love Zach and Lily and their relationship is, and talk about emotional maturity. For them to both tell each other how much they care about each other and to both recognize that they can't quite act on it yet.
Yeah.
They need to give this some time and.
Yeah, I like to think that Zach makes it.
Heck yeah.
And becomes what he wants to be, and that they can end up together.
And that he finds a way to route that anger in a productive way.
Yeah.
To get things done and to make change in the world.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it because he's getting pummeled with paper at school, little paper snowballs and stuff, and he's not smacking people for it. And Lily brings up a good point, like it's just paper.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
It's not rocks and it's not a whatever they beat Rosaline with, and I love that lawyer's helping settle down the situation with Rosaline and Lily back in whateverville, Peachtown. It was just a lot of this wrapped up really nicely. All the loose ends wrapped up nicely, and not perfect, and there's still lots of growth that needs to happen and lots of things that need to be done, but
Yeah.
I'm glad Lily gets to live there and learn about the bees.
Yeah. I keep coming back to that line in last week's reading about how like melanin is the sun around which all the planets orbit or whatever. And
Yeah.
I just like it's just by the end of this book, they all end up in the same or they start to integrate the schools and everything. It's just so much ado about nothing. Just like
Mm-hmm.
it's so as some I can't get past just the amount of energy that people devoted to this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about just like all just like the weirdness, and I think about a fake news story that happened this week about people who could have
Mm.
been different than you but like weren't. And without getting further into that, so much ado about nothing, and
Yeah.
so much energy devoted to just nonsense.
Yeah.
And like what are we doing?
And like wrecking
Yeah.
someone's world over.
Part of me thinks
Sorry.
yeah, I'm not sure about this idea, and so y'all forgive me if this is like totally off base. But part of me thinks that like the ability to care about that thing is about these sorts of things, like somebody's race or sexuality or gender or whatever, is like such a privilege. Like
Yeah.
like you must be doing pretty good to care.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you could definitely like there's definitely this idea that that maybe people are of like the same class and they're being played off each other, and like I don't disagree with that idea. But for you to care about this sort of thing and have like the time and the energy to like
Mm-hmm.
wow.
It's just such a waste.
Yeah.
It's a waste of time. But it was a good book.
Mm-hmm.
It was good. Did you learn anything new about bees in this book?
I know nothing about bees. I mean, I knew a little bit about bees.
Do you know now some things about bees?
Some things, yeah.
Oh, did they ever get the queen bee to fill that hive that was about to die? We never heard about that little loose end.
Yeah, no, they were expecting him the day T-Ray showed up, and we never really heard the rest of that story.
I know. I'm worried about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Peggy told a friend that people who are so angry, they need something else to do. They need to try another emotion or find what they're really mad at.
Yeah.
Pigment's a dumb thing to be mad about. Like the pink house. It's ugly, but it's just just paint.
Do you think?
Yeah. I love the pink house.
Yeah, and like it's ugly in your estimation or whatever.
Yeah.
When I grew up, the town I went to school in had all these houses that were just wild colors.
Mm.
All the time. It was crazy. But like that doesn't seem that odd to me to have a pink house.
Mm-hmm.
Or like a bright blue house, or
well, I mean, we see it around like beaches. Beach houses are
Sure.
always like fun colors, and then we see it down south because I think there was some talk about like weird contrasting colors kept spirits out or something like that.
So yeah, that's specifically why these houses were painted different
Okay.
colors. Yeah.
So, but then in just a regular neighborhood, the rule is the colors of the homes in a neighborhood should match the environment. So if you have lots of trees and stuff in the neighborhood, then the houses are
Mm-hmm.
these like naturally kind of colors that should match. You've got your greens and your browns and your creams and your yellows and things like that.
Yeah. I think one of the other important things about like why all of these characters have flaws, T-Ray, Deborah, Lily, you know, even like May to some extent, right? Like she's probably the most innocent of them all, but like she has her struggles. You know what I mean? Like everybody's got these flaws of one level or another. And I think it's that makes everybody human, right? It's not necessarily that like, hey, we could just all love each other. It's that we could love each other despite the fact that we are all imperfect, right? Everybody got something wrong with them. Everybody got something you ain't gonna like. But we can still pull this off.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the point. And like for me, like talking about like a ritual or talking about rituals and like becoming using something physical to become something mental. For me, Lily's graduation into this community that she's joined is when she gets her hat.
Yeah.
When they give her a hat, that is the "you are now us." moment. And it's not necessarily them like letting her hang around Mary because they let her do that without really being part of the community, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And it wasn't taking her into the house because that was like early on, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
it's that hat for me.
Yeah. And, them showing up when they heard T Ray was there. They could have easily
Mm-hmm.
said, we don't,
Yeah,
we love her and we don't want anything bad to happen, but we can't get involved.
yeah.
That would have been totally understandable
Mm-hmm.
for them to do that. And they showed up with their clothes on, possibly backwards and inside out. I mean, they were
Yeah,
scrambling out of the house to go and make a barrier of bags,
yeah.
ready to bludgeon someone with a bag
Mm-hmm.
to protect Lily.
Yep.
And I thought that was really cool. And also a good reminder, y'all don't be messing with ladies who have a handbag.
Mm-hmm.
It is a weapon. The
Well,
modern version of that's the Stanley Cup. Like, come up to someone holding one of these things. See what happens.
I did like the line. Um, I, Lily tells us that August has told her in the past, even though we've never heard her say it
Mm-hmm.
during that scene, that if you want something from somebody, you give them a way to give it to you.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I enjoyed that line. They gave T Ray a way to leave Lily while making it look like it was his idea,
Mm-hmm.
saving face and everything.
Mm-hmm.
That was good.
Oh, I mean, that's just that's just good strategy,
Yeah,
right? Like if
nothing
you
wrong
want
there.
your way,
Yeah,
make it feel like everyone's getting their way.
yep.
And that's what stops the conflict. But we let our pride get in the way too
Mm-hmm.
many times where we just want to win and we want someone else to lose.
Yeah.
You know?
I think I made a comment earlier about how like we have our families and then we see everybody else as sort of like an economic means to an end almost. But like I think we also oftentimes and this is like a problem with just like the way we have structured our society. We see everybody as like an economic opponent,
Mm-hmm.
and the people like if they have, then I won't have. And it's not a
Right.
zero. It doesn't have to be a zero sum game. It
Right.
doesn't have to be us versus them.
There's plenty.
Tide rises all ships, or whatever the
Ah,
whatever.
that's a
Yeah,
good
like
metaphor.
it's just like if we can all pull ourselves up together, and if you're leaving people behind, that tends not to work well.
Yeah. What? Oh goodness, color has such an effect on people.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about like their guesses on the color of the house or how they saw it in their heads.
Yeah.
And, yeah,
Yeah.
it's always us versus them.
That's actually a really
Books.
interesting point. Is
What was our book before this one?
we read the two
Oh,
Red Rising books.
sorry.
But that's actually really interesting. Is we've read a lot of things over the last, let's say, 12 months because I'm trying to include Heaven and Earth Grocery Store about like race and group, you conflict, I suppose. And if you liked this book and you are interested in science fiction, Red Rising might be kind of like an interesting way to look at it because it takes this and just like throws it into the future. I didn't forget.
I just can't ever remember one week to the next.
Yeah, I'm trying so hard to remember everything about this book that it's hard for me to
Yeah.
remember everything else.
I mean, this book club has really amped up the number of books that I read.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
This is a lot more than I read on my own.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that. I feel like we're learning so much and broadening our worldview so much.
Yeah.
Can you use your paw to open the door? Oh.
I'll let her out.
Said,
You keep going. Come here, baby. Come here.
Poor little pup. Anyway, it was good. So when did we read Heaven and Earth Grocery Store? I mean, that was this year.
Yeah, it was this year.
Yeah.
I mean, we read about a book a month. It was probably
Yeah.
early this year. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Shelby's goal is to read 24
Wow.
books in 2024. Wow. Is it 24 because it's 2024? Or is it just 24 because that's 2 books a month? Or how'd you set your goal? You're just trying to outdo last year? Yeah, Peggy, I was thinking about like when this book left off, what there is still to come. I mean, they're just at the beginning of this. Rosaline is talking about that she's going to vote for Johnson,
Mm-hmm.
which Johnson didn't run for re-election. He didn't run for a second term, because everything went so bad during his run
Mm-hmm.
as president with the Vietnam War being out of control and with the assassinations and stuff. Um, but if they feel like the world is on fire now,
Yeah.
I mean, it's only about to increase.
It's so crazy to me, like that. That's like even illegal. Like you have to like think about that and make a rule about that because I feel like I don't. I just there's so much like just general libertarianism that comes around in the same group of people that are making these rules like 20 years later, right? Like 20 years on down the road, there's this big wave of just like, well, we don't want the government to be involved in people's business. And this is like one of those things that you would be like, what are y'all doing here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, really?
Yeah.
We ain't got time for all this.
It's really weird. That's weird. But yeah, that's
And then it makes me wonder, like, what are we doing now that like our grandkids are going to look at and be like, what were y'all doing?
What were you thinking?
And I've said this before, but I think that it's going to be the fact that we're driving like 6-seater cars for one person. I think they're really going to judge us for that. When they're up to their eyeballs in seawater and nonsense. Judged.
Yeah. Oh, I did highlight this one little spot when Lily's, she's just kind of constantly thinking about being taken back to prison. Um, I highlighted the quote, "Why the Everglades? I don't know, except I've always thought that that would be the worst place to be in prison. Think of all the alligators and snakes, not to mention heat worse than we had here, and people had been known to fry not just eggs, but bacon and sausage on South Carolina sidewalks. I could not imagine breathing in Florida. Florida is the hottest hot that's ever hotted. It is
It's pretty hot.
so hot.
Yeah.
I don't know how people live there in the summer. Alligators, snakes, heat, skeeters. It was terrible. But anyway, it just made me laugh. And what else? Oh! It reminded me of Anansi Boys.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That was like the most realistic description. The description of when they had gotten to Florida
Mm-hmm.
and they had like rolled down their car window and just suffocated.
Yeah.
Just that oppressive humidity.
Nicole's out here trying to mention every book we've ever read.
No, it just like all these things like they just bounce
Yeah.
back and they remind me of each other.
Yeah.
You don't. You survive in the AC. Oh yeah, Shelby, are you from Florida? Oh, she says Florida sucks.
Olympic gold. Yeah. That would be fun. We should have the book club Olympics every 4 years or something. And I don't know what that means, but like we should think about that. So.
Oh, she lived outside of Tampa.
Yeah.
Boy, howdy, it's just so hot. So hot.
Well, I know it's been a little short, but that's about everything I need to say. Fantastic book.
Yeah.
No complaints. You know, there's kind of a sequel to this. Is that right? She's written another book. I believe it's a sequel.
Tons of books.
Yeah, but there's another one.
Oh.
The Book of Longings.
Oh, I did not think it was related.
It is not related.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
it's just another book.
Fantastic author. I'd definitely be interested in throwing that one in.
The Invention of Wings is another one that's very popular.
Okay.
That she's written.
Sorry, not a sequel.
Sorry, Peggy. Yeah.
Sorry.
We were too excited.
Yep.
The
cover looks like honey. That's what confused me.
I will be thinking about August and Lily and Rosaline and like wondering like how are they doing?
Yeah.
You know? Do you ever do that with books? Like you kind of wonder like you think about the characters and your brain treats them like they're real people and you wonder how they are. Just me.
Okay. Yeah, I did not read the author's notes. We'll definitely check that out.
Yeah. Pythons are an invasive species in Florida.
Yeah. They're out there. Big old snakes. You think your little snake is scary?
I would just cease to exist.
Mhm.
I would see that python and turn into a pile of dust. Oh. But I mean, they don't just like,
No, they
they
squeeze you
just
to death.
squeeze.
It's worse.
Yeah, but that gives me time for someone to see. I'm never alone.
That's no.
Someone would see what's happening.
No one would ever see it.
Ah!
If a python got to you, no one is watching.
Ugh. Yeah. All right. Well, guys.
So if you are planning to follow along with us to the next book, we are reading Tom Lake by Anne Patchett. Not Pratchett, Patchett.
I really messed her name up.
That's okay.
Sorry, Anne.
We're going to get right for 3 straight weeks. And so we need to put out a syllabus episode quickly for that. It's going to be very straightforward. And then we can get started on our next book.
I'm kind of excited about this book. It's just been on lots of people's lists, and I've heard really good things about it.
This book that Secret Life of Bees, is a book that I chose to put on the list that outside of the book club I never would have picked. It's just I like Red Rising, and I like
You
stuff
like your
that goes
sci-fi
boom.
action
Yeah.
books.
But I'm so glad I read it, and this is definitely the kind of book I like. It's just not the kind of book I would pick, and
Yeah.
that's weird. That being said, I'm excited about Tom Lake as well. Like, I've read the description, I'm interested, I'm here for it. Also not a book I would pick.
It's just these wonderful little snippets of someone else's life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's not some big
Right.
thing that happens. It's just, here's a glimpse into someone else's world for a minute.
Yeah. I love that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I love just hearing stories about normal people, knowing how, talking to your neighbors and just like hearing what their life is like or whatever, stuff like that. So.
And Shelby's mentioned Andy Weir's novel Artemis. She says it's really good.
Deal. Put that on the list.
Man, I really loved Project Hail Mary.
Yeah, it's very good.
Gosh, and I did not expect to love that so much.
Yeah, that's good.
But yeah, speaking of book club, getting you reading things that you just never would have picked on your own. Pretty great.
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of the good things about this book club in particular. A lot of book clubs that I see, they all pick like the wife murder mystery, like they're like a murder mystery club.
Yeah,
or, like they have one
themed,
thing, and I get it. I'm on board.
Absolutely.
But
yeah,
this is cool.
Yeah, and Atlas picked out this next book.
True. Thank you, Boo Boo.
Yeah, she did good.
All right.
She's just an orderly dog, so it was just random that book was placed first in the row, and she just went to the first one and went and ate all her little Cheerios all the way down the line. Yeah, and Shelby points out a good thing too. Even if our book is a dud, like Flanders panel style, we still find some good things to talk about and laugh about and move on and just try to forget about it. Flanders panel.
I still play chess every day because of that book.
It does.
Every day. Yeah.
It does.
All right, well, let's wrap it up.
Okay. Bye, guys. Happy reading. See you at the syllabus. Thanks for joining us.
Yes.